Hello, my name is Ian Dickinson, and I will be giving a presentation on an intervention plan for the social cause texting while driving. The literature and framework for this intervention plan has been built around a scoping study on the topic, and this presentation aims to elaborate and expand on these concepts. The social cause intervention plan builds on the information provided in the social causes scoping study, and it's aimed at designing an effective intervention plan for the social cause texting while driving. The report includes an in-depth analysis of literature and prior research, and the presentation then looks at intervention aims, partnerships, the 4 Ps, and relevant strategies pertaining to the intervention. The ethical and potential consequences of the intervention are also discussed within the presentation. It was found that by utilizing a multi-level strategy incorporating behavioral theory, it is likely that changes in attitudes, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control might occur within young drivers' target demographic and reduce deviant driving behavior. This slide is the table of contents, and it basically outlines the structure of this presentation. Texting while driving, why it is important. Texting while driving in Australia has been identified as an ever-increasing problem, and even though texting while driving and using a handheld device while operating a vehicle is illegal, it has been found that approximately 61% of drivers have admitted to using their handheld devices to send a text, make a phone call, or even update their social media. Research into this topic has been extensive, and the use of handheld devices has been identified as a primary cause of road incidences, making up 1 in every 4 car crashes on Australian roads. Reducing road incidences caused by driver distraction is an important social cause because a recent survey in Australia indicated that over 84% of the population own a smartphone. This indicates a potential risk for future driver distraction incidences. In the scoping study, it was concluded that an extensive amount of literature highlighted the dangers of texting while driving. I will quickly go through a few of these studies specifically pertaining to texting while driving in Australia. A study conducted by a New South Wales survey of 415 drivers found that 28% of respondents admitted to sending text messages and checking emails while driving, while another 25% admitted to updating their Facebook status, even though respondents understood the operation of handheld devices was illegal. In a similar study conducted in Queensland, comprising of 484 drivers aged between 17 and 25, looked at the use of handheld devices as well as the characteristics of usage, risk factors, and compensatory strategies and characteristics of high-frequency users of mobile devices. The study found that drivers were not able to acknowledge the increased risk associated with operating a handheld device. It also highlighted that drivers would alter their driving habits to compensate for the operation of a smartphone. Some of these attitudes towards task management for participants for texting while driving were increasing the distance from the vehicle in front, slowing down, and keeping the phone low to avoid law enforcement. This study highlights a fundamental inability to identify risk perception. This concept was consistent through most articles and research throughout the scoping study. In conjunction with the aforementioned statistics and literature, it becomes apparent that we need to understand the motives behind deviant behaviours so that new strategies and ideas can be used to reduce road incidences involving driver distraction. Through research, the impacts of using a smartphone while driving have been found to affect drivers in 3 critical ways. Number 1, as a physical distraction. Number 2, as a visual distraction. And lastly, number 3, as a cognitive distraction. Currently, throughout Australia, many different campaigns have been used to increase awareness about the risks of using handheld devices while driving, such as the Driving Blind campaign, as well as the Get Your Hands Off It campaign. These campaigns are mostly aimed at young adult males between the age of 18 to 25. We'll have a quick look at one of these campaigns now.
At 60 kilometers per hour, if you look at your phone while driving, for just 2 seconds, you travel 33 meters blind. And that could cost you, or those you care about, everything. It's not worth it. Get your hand off it.
Through greater analysis of this topic, research focusing on the choice to text and drive found that respondents' behaviour was a key shaper of attitude. While drivers stated that they understood the risks of engaging in texting while driving, It was found that risk perception was a weak predictor of behavior and had little to no effect on drivers' texting, ultimately suggesting that even when young drivers understand the risk, they perceive the risk to be negligible to their behavior. In behavioral science, it is commonly accepted that there are 8 ways in which people can change their behavior. Currently, most existing campaigns, like the New South Wales campaign we just watched, focus on modifying behavior through rejection and abandonment strategies. However, in research provided in 2011 by Ashley et al., found that in their study, risk is a weak predictor of behavior, indicating that current marketing strategies are utilizing risk punishment methods to be less effective. Therefore, a new marketing strategy should be adopted, such as modification or creating a new repeated behavior. It could be suggested that utilizing strategies such as early intervention, education, and adopting smart technology such as phone applications could be leveraged to reach the at-risk demographic. In this slide, we'll be building on behavior perceptions and studying relevant behavior change theory. At the top of the slide, we have the theory of planned behavior, and this is the primary model that we will be using for behavior theory. The theory of planned behavior shows the attitudes towards behavior, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control. The theory states that if a person's belief that the attitude is good, they will believe that their social group would want them to perform their behavior, and the intent to perform the behavior is increased. The theory of planned behavior also uses perceived behavioral controls, which focuses on one's ability to perform the behavior. This conceptual framework allows us to analyze and understand key factors into texting while driving. The theory of planned behavior was used to build 3 intervention strategies around attitudes, social norms, and perceived behavioral control. These interventions were mindfulness and education-based training for at-risk young drivers, a windshield sticker campaign to combat driver autonomy and improve mindfulness, and lastly a safe driver application. Based on the theory of planned behavior and research into the behaviors of texting while driving, have highlighted a need for a modern approach to a problem that is growing exponentially in Australia. In a study conducted by Buckley et al. In 2014, found that web-based training was an effective platform for behavior intervention, and stated that programs must be developmentally appropriate and must consider the social and economic benefits for young drivers. It was also found in research conducted by Nem and White in 2010, by rewarding drivers to not engage in distracted driving, it is likely that through perceived behavioral control, changes in attitudes and subjective norms are likely to occur. Based on these findings, an age-appropriate intervention could be utilized. This application would be aimed specifically at drivers between the ages of 18 and 25 years of age. Young drivers were found to be 2.5 times as likely to make a phone call using a handheld device and are 4 times as likely to engage in texting while driving. It was also found that those who use handheld devices were found to also engage in other risky behavior. It can also be suggested that texting or driving are related to several other factors ranging from self-control, attitude towards texting, and responsible driving, as well as the opinion of peers. On this slide, we'll start looking at the intervention plan, the Safe Driver Saver app. Based on the research provided through the analysis of the theory of planned behavior, it was concluded that the intervention that worked best with the model was the Safe Driver Saver application. The function of this application would allow users to lock their phone and block phone calls and text while the application is active. The app would also feature fun and instructive games about driver distraction. By using the application, the user could gain points that would be associated with the user profile and the vehicle registration. These points could be used similarly as a loyalty card, and these points could be redeemable for a lower car insurance cost, registration, or petrol discounts. On this slide, we're looking at the intervention plan's timeline. The intervention plan will take approximately 1.5 years from development to launch. It will have the option to reevaluate and redesign based on the success or failure of the application. On the slideshow, you can see the estimated timeline. We would expect to have most of the beta development completed within the first 3 months and would be expect to be sourcing investment and partnerships within this time. Within 6 months, we would expect a beta test with customers providing feedback on the app. With changes made based on the consumer feedback, we would then start distributing our product close to the 1-year mark. The application will be monitored for its usage rates, and the success or failure of the app would be judged primarily based on user engagement and a reduction in road fatalities. At 1.5 years' time, we would expect an evaluation and change to the application or the marketing strategy to take place. We will now look at the intervention's aims. The Safe Driver Saver app aims to actively engage with the at-risk target market to reduce fatalities caused by texting while driving. By creating a physical intervention for the use of smartphones in vehicles, the aim is to reward consumers through its use to positively reinforce repeat behavior. However, for this to be successful, it is imperative that the intervention strategy provides value to the consumer, but to also provide value to certain stakeholders. The intervention would initially aim to use analytics to track mobile phone usage in relation to its use inside vehicles. This data would prove useful in improving future strategies as well. Potential partners and important stakeholders. This section is hugely important to the development of the Safe Driver Saver intervention. Important stakeholders will involve the government and respective governing bodies, such as the Department of Transport and Main Roads. Other key stakeholders will be communities, businesses, finance industries, and advertising bodies. As the application is a free software, opportunities for in-app advertisement as well as the potential for product sales through partner promotions are primary benefits for businesses. The application offers businesses to market directly to a large and specific target market. Lastly, opportunities for partnerships with social media influencers may also be advantageous. These types of stakeholder relationships are very important to the overall success of the application. Now we will look at product strategy. From the slide, we can see the core, actual, and augmented product. The core product is the application and the website with the main function to make roads safer and increase awareness about the risks of distracted driving. The actual product highlights the USP, or unique selling point. So we can see from the table that some of its unique selling points are that it's a free application, the design is simple and effective, and it's an Australian app that rewards safe driving through the accumulation of points. These points can then be used for discounts with potential stakeholders and partnerships. Lastly, the augmented product highlights the continuing and value-adding elements of the product. So the application will feature additional augmented products such as 24-hour support, higher loyalty rates. The app will reward more, also provides phone usage and data on customers' habits, which may be of interest to the consumer as well. As we just mentioned in the product strategy, the application will be free, but it will also have the option for a paid ad-free alternative. However, development of websites, applications, and third-party software that would be involved for this project are quite expensive. It would be estimated that the average cost to develop an iOS app is about $28,000, Android costs about $23,000, and a Windows Phone application would cost about $18,000. Additionally, marketing for online applications and websites are estimated to cost between $50,000 to $100,000 for small to medium-sized application builds. This budget allocates for things such as website management, search engine marketing, optimization, and social media marketing, as well as traditional marketing means. Funding for the project would initially come from potential investors on the project, as well as government grants for social initiatives. The paid version of the app would be sold at $1.99 per unit on average to assist with the recoup of costs, and we would estimate the sale of 100,000 units in 2 years. However, the platform's free version will generate ad revenue to cover costs and create profit for investors. Next, we will look at placement strategies. As the application is digital, the distribution channels of the application would be focused on geographical and digital placement during the early stages of launch. The application would be distributed on iOS phones, Android phones, Windows phones, and on our website. And in the initial phases of the project, geographically speaking, the application will be launched initially on the east side of Australia. Promotion of the product is also a very important aspect of the intervention. Initially, in the early stages of the application launch, the app would ideally be advertised through digital media, news publications, and television media. Through television and digital media, we would expect to have the best exposure for our target market. Traditional print media may also be utilized to give informative flyers to select community groups, high schools, and driver education schools. The use of social media influencers in combination with social media advertising, as well as advertising with business partners, would also be ideal for the promotion of this application. On this slide, we will look at the creative strategy and media planning for the Safe Driver Saver application. So, functionality of the app and advertising will play a big role in the success of this application. On this slide, we'll see a mock-up on the left for the branding, as well as the application home screen on the right. The application would be built for a mobile phone interface. Once inside the app, the home screen would allow for one-tap phone lock to enable and disable incoming calls, texts, and updates. While the phone is locked, the application will monitor the speed of the vehicle via Google Maps, the time of the application, and the distance traveled to give an accurate reading of how many points to award. Points can also be awarded daily for playing Safe Driver games. These games would focus on reaction time, distraction, and mindfulness to educate the driver. The phone application will also have an electronic loyalty card once the user is registered, and we can use this to swipe and receive discounts from stores and service stations instantly. The Safe Driver Saver application would also feature a website that consumers could log into via the web. We can see a mock-up of the design on the bottom left of this slide. By providing their login details, they will have access to all their mobile phone usage data, which could show them how much they use their phone and when, update their information, look at specials and deals that they can get discounts on by spending their points. The website will also list all the affiliated companies, programs, blogs, and safe driving tips. This will give a sense of community engagement for the user. Lastly, on the right, we can see a banner ad for promotion. So this is the type of advertising material that we would hope to see with this kind of strategy. Evaluation of the application will happen in 3 steps: initial beta testing and customer trials, launch, and post-launch review. The reviews will focus on customer feedback, surveys, and focus groups. The evaluation would consider the effectiveness of the application and website to reach the target market, as well as the effectiveness of traditional media marketing for product awareness. Analytics would be used as a benchmark for the digital platforms. Evaluations of partnerships is also essential. Partners involved would want to have the opportunity to see clear and transparent reporting of sales revenue from promotions, advertisement, and audience metrics related to their own business. Now we will look at the ethical considerations and potential unintended consequences for the Safe Driver Saver app. On this slide, we have outlined 3. The first unintended consequence is relating to advertising on mobile applications. As we are targeting younger users, it is possible that they may be exposed to advertising in apps that rely on addictive and repetitive behavior, such as online gambling and mobile gaming apps. These businesses rely on similar behavioral compulsions that are likely displayed by those who text and drive, which could make them a vulnerable audience. This was identified in research conducted by Feldman in 2011. Secondly, advertising data and personal profiles of consumers must be protected, as the application would store names, logins, vehicle registration, and potential insurance information. Implications could include risks of data being hacked or sold. Lastly, it is possible that passengers in vehicles and commutes could attempt to use the application to gain additional points for discounts, preventing the application from being used for its true function. In summary, based on the research conducted by the scoping study and the intervention strategy, it is possible that by utilizing a multi-level strategy incorporating behavioral theory such as the Safe Driver application, it is possible that changes in attitudes, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control might occur with the young driver's target market demographic. By reinforcing behaviour with an application that is readily accessible and provides economic benefits for young drivers, it is possible that an application such as the Safe Driver Saver could potentially be successful.